Alrighty, winemaking part 3. So this has been racked and it's been sitting there for about 5 days now. What you have to be careful of, because there is sediment at the bottom, look, you can see a layer of sediment, and every so often if you give it a very sharp twist, the sediment that's stuck up here will fall to the bottom, and after a while the sediment will compact after about 4 or 5 days. I wouldn't bottle it any sooner, because the sediment, it might look clear, but the sediment is sort of dusty and it'll if you suck any of that up when you're going to bottle, you're going to have a cloudy wine. So that's that, and we'll move on in a little while to the actual bottling of it. Right, so everything we've got in here has been sterilised. We've got 2 different siphons. I'll explain why in a minute. Got a big one and a small one. Got some steriliser here. This is the one to use. It's a good one. You have to get a cleaner steriliser, not just a steriliser. Save you a lot of scrubbing of bottles. And when you finish your wine, make sure you clean it out properly straight away, so that the bottle is clean to start with. And I'm just going to top these 2 up to their overflowing. This is the most tedious part of winemaking, which is why Jackie's helping me today, bless her. Or will be. Cheap old Asda 50p funnels. So the bottle's overflowing, you've got to get it up to the top there, and I'm going to keep a reserve there for topping up in a minute. It's as simple as this. It's slightly warm, but it doesn't have to be warm. So I'm going to do them 2 at a time. And here's a useful tip. If you rotate and twist the bottles, they empty a hell of a lot quicker than if you just do glug, glug, glug. I'm going to put these, they've now got covered in sterilant, so I'm going to put these to one side until I've done them all, and then we'll go through the rinsing process. And what we're going to do when we rinse them is put them on that thing over there, which looks like a medieval torture device, but it's they're not expensive, they're about 20 quid, and it's a bottle drainer, and they're brilliant actually. So we'll come back shortly for part 2. Right, wine ready to clear. We're going to get it, and we're not going to get any sediment, hopefully. If it goes wrong and you accidentally get sediment, this stuff will sort it out in 24 hours, but you cannot bottle it when it's cloudy. The other thing I use is a little tip. I've got a diving torch, my scuba diving torch, and you can see whether the wine is nice and clear, which that just about is, but we're really impatient. And that's really useful for red wine, because obviously having a really bright torch, because you can't really see when red wine's cleared. Right, okay, so I'm going to use the bigger, Dave's out the way, darling, the bigger siphon for this, and this has got an anti-sediment thing on the bottom, which this cap actually removes, but it stops you sucking sediment up. That's the general idea. So what I'm going to do to start with, make sure I've got it all lined up, is I'm going to hold it well clear of the bottom for the time being, and I'm going to start at siphoning. And if you pause it, I'll come back in a minute. Right. So what we're doing now, and got to be careful that bit doesn't drop off, so make sure it's nice and tight. So I've followed it down all the way, and I'm going to leave it just above the sediment. This is not the most successful one I've done, but hey ho. And this is the bit that takes a steady hand, because we want to make sure we get as much wine as possible. So what I'm going to do is gradually tip it as we get to the bottom. Make sure you don't start rocking it, or you'll disturb all the sediment. And I'm going to put it down on the bottom. Keep it firm. And I'm going to hit the panic button if any sediment gets near, because we want to keep that wine as clear as possible. So it doesn't matter if you leave half a bottle behind, although Jackie won't agree.
Definitely not.
Okay, so it's starting to move now, and I'll leave it there. And there you go. All the bottles nicely drained. You can see we've put this on a puppy pad. The reason being that we just left somebody, we don't know who, left the kitchen cooker on, and it's melted a hole in the bottom where it drained. Which is the second bad incident we've had in winemaking in 2 weeks, because I took the heater out the other day, put it on my lovely oak table, and burnt a hole in the table because I'd forgotten to turn the heater off. not having a good run actually. Right, this is a smaller siphon, okay, it's got a clip so that it will clip on the bucket, and added to the end, these are well worth it if you can get it. Stuck on the end is a little thing with a valve on, and so when you push it into the bottle, it'll fill it up to exactly the right level. So we're going to start that now. I'm going to pop this in the bucket, and I'm going to clip it on the side like that, okay, and I'm going to sit on the boring chair. I'm going to pop it into the middle bottle, push it down, give it a bit of a pump to get going. Now the reason I'm using a smaller siphon, you can just put your finger over the end, but it's better to keep air out of the wine when you're doing it, and this is a great way of keeping air out, otherwise you end up with loads of bubbles. So they're only about 5 or 6, maybe 10 quid these. So you're going to fill the bottle up to the top, but the beauty of this little valve is, because you're supposed to have it about a thumb width from the top, is you can then just push gently and get every bottle to exactly the right sort of level, which is that, leaving room for the cork. And that's it until corking, and I'll show you in a minute that. Types of corks you can use for corking. When you start out, you can get these tapered ones which you can push in by hand. I tend to use these ones which are waxed, premium ones. They're either waxed or silicone, but just check if you are going to go the route of buying a corking machine, which is highly recommended. Just check that they don't need soaking first, because some of them need a dunk in water, otherwise they don't go in very well. But I use these premium corks. They're only about three quid for 30, and they're covered in silicone, so they slide in. But before you get a machine, if you don't want to get a machine, you can do it this way, which is just to ram the cork in, turn the bottle upside down, and there you go. Now that's good enough, but the only disadvantage with that is that you can't lay the bottle down. You have to stand it up overnight while the cork expands, and if you lay it down, sometimes you can get some leakage. So that's that method. Now we move on to the all singing, all dancing, flashing machine, which is this corking machine, and that also over there, that rack, both of these are made by Ferrari, the Ferrari, so you can actually own a Ferrari without spending too much. And what I'm going to do with this waxed cork, one bottle on the floor. You have to adjust it and keep these nuts up the top nice and get it away from my nuts. These nuts up the top nice and tight so that it pushes it into the right depth. It's quite a fiddle, but once it's set up, it's set up. So I'm going to pop that in there. I'm going to throw a cork on the floor and grab another one. Here's one I dropped on the floor earlier. Put the cork in, make sure it's roughly lined up with the piston, and in one fell swoop, go like that. Nice and steady. Give it a polish, and I think you can see we have a lovely crystal clear bottle ready to go. And I prefer the corker because I can lay them down straight away and there won't be any leakage. And that is that. Good luck.